What's going on, gamers? Chris here with telesplashgaming, and we are into the second quarter of 2021. The first quarter to me felt like it was a little bit quiet in gaming, but when I look back, there were some pretty good hitters. The Medium, Hitman 3, but games like Outriders, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake, they got delayed. We did get a Ghosts 'n Goblins Resurrection on Switch, Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury, and Little Nightmares 2 to name a few that popped out. But with that, I feel like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X have definitely had a little bit of a slow go since their launch. We did finally get Destruction All-Stars to drop on PS Plus, which is a good thing, but we're still waiting for some more games. But I think the second quarter is going to have some big hitters to keep us entertained throughout the year. So let's check out what we got. Starting off on April 1st, we are finally going to see what I hope is Outriders drop. This is going to be on the Xbox and Sony consoles as well as the PC, and Square Enix has a monster on their hands here. You cannot make a game if you're Square Enix and not get hyped. It doesn't really matter what they do, it just has the name behind it. Whether it's good or bad remains to be seen, but with the hype writing behind it, it's one that I'm definitely looking forward to, and it's already had delays. Now the thing is, we've talked about delays. We want delays if games are not being made the way they should. I don't mind being a little bit patient, so hopefully with Outriders, they delayed it to make this game the best they possibly can. It's a third-person shooter covered in RPG elements. You create a character, pick a class, and enter the world to start looting and shooting. Sounds a lot like Destiny to me, but I have not played it nor seen a whole lot of the demos. You can pick a couple buddies and you can do 3 players online, and I really hope that this is the next big, great looter shooter that we can get engulfed in moving forward throughout the rest of the year. April 6th, we're seeing Oddworld Soulstorm drop on Sony platforms and PC, and they're saying this is a reimagining of Oddworld Abe's Exodus. I honestly don't even know what the heck a reimagining means. Is it a remake? Is it a remaster? Is it just inspired by the game? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's coming, and it's the first game in the franchise since 2014's Oddworld New and Tasty. This is a 2.5D platformer. You get to see Honest Abe return to save his fellow Madokans, is that how you pronounce it? From slave labor. Well, good on him for coming back and being the savior that his race needs. There's a new crafting system for weapons and a hub system to access new levels and areas. This is typically going to be a fairly linear game, but since you have a hub world, you are able to kind of hit things in the order you want, as well as expand and open up new areas. So if you are a Oddworld fan, then this is definitely one to keep an eye out. Moving on, we have Saga Frontier Remastered, April 15th on the PS4, PC, and Switch. Now, this is a late 90s PS1 RPG that gets remastered treatment with updated graphics, new gameplay features, and an entirely new main character to join the original cast. With 8 heroes to choose from, you definitely have some options when you begin this journey, and one of the new features is double speed. Now, one of my biggest complaints with RPGs is the amount of time I have is so limited that RPGs become a daunting task. But luckily with this double speed, this can actually speed up the gameplay for you, and if you're pressed for time like myself, give you a little bit less time that you have to engulf in this game to beat it. April 30th, we get a new Switch game, Pokemon Snap. That's right, folks. If you're like me, this game came out when you were a kid, you played it, you had to hide it because you were embarrassed to be playing a Pokemon Snap game in middle school, but nonetheless, this is a great on-rails shooter, except you're shooting with a camera, not a gun. Bandai Namco always seems to flag me when I put footage of their games up, so there's probably going to be some screenshots here in place of that, but if you haven't played the original N64 version, here's what you're getting. An on-rails shooter, like Star Fox. Use your camera to photograph all the various Pokemon. You can unlock secrets and evolutions by throwing items out, and there's other possible options. So even though you play the game and it's pretty linear, there is different replayability options because of the options to create Pokemon's different scenarios based on the food you feed them, throwing stuff at them, snapping pictures at the right time. So definitely you got some replayability here, and I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty solid title when it drops. Returnal, coming out the end of April as well on the PS5, is a new 3D, personal psychological horror game set in a futuristic sci-fi environment. You play as Celine, a space pilot who has a suit and all sorts of weapons to help you along your journey. Now, this has a time loop of sorts that makes this a roguelike game. After every death, you're resurrected, which, okay, makes sense, roguelike, and you try to make more progress than your last attempt. It doesn't sound roguelike, it sounds like a rogue game. The graphics and gameplay look really good, and I'm definitely excited to see how this plays out. With graphics, a lot of the roguelikes are indie games, but I love that this is a kind of a AAA game that we're getting on the PS5 that has that roguelike experience. So this could definitely be a pretty cool setup, and one that I'll be looking for when it drops.
The map will be different.
Mark your calendars, folks, and they're probably already marked. May 7th is the official release date for Resident Evil Village. Coming out on PlayStation, Xbox platforms, as well as the PC. No reason to really introduce this game. A direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. We get to play as Ethan Winters once again in the first person as he somehow ends up in another creepy adventure. This guy can't stay away. But this time it's not his fault. Set a few years after his first visit with the Baker family, Chris Redfield, one of our favorite heroes from the series, shows up and kidnaps Ethan and takes him to a village in Europe. And of course, it's not a nice little village. They're going to hand you a beer and a bratwurst. No, no, no. This village has werewolves, tall, creepy-looking witches, vampires, whatever they are, and tons of other unfriendly residents. This is definitely going to be a big, big hit when it releases, and if you haven't pre-ordered it, there's no better time than now. A day one buy for me. I don't always try to talk about remakes and remasters, but I do cover some of the big hitters, and when you have a game like Mass Effect Legendary Edition coming out May 14th on all the platforms but the poor Nintendo Switch, you've got to talk about it. This is worth noting. 3 games, all remastered and available on modern consoles, is definitely worth mentioning, especially when they have the pull of the Mass Effect trilogy, some of the most popular RPGs ever made. May 21st, just a week after Mass Effect drops, we get Deathloop, the PC and PS5 exclusive, at least for I believe a year, is dropping on those consoles. Taking on the role of Colt, you're an assassin stuck in a time loop. Imagine Groundhog's Day, except you're on an island called Black Reef, and you attend a party every night, but the next morning everything resets. Now here's what happens. You retain your memory. Nobody else at the party does, so we're talking straight up Bill Murray status here. And the goal is to take out 8 targets before midnight, or else you fail your mission and you get reset back to the next day. So essentially the way to get out of this time loop is to assassinate all 8 targets. I'm guessing that you have to go through, figure out the strategy, and eventually you'll achieve your goal. The premise really sounds cool to me, and you know what? If Bill Murray could somehow make an appearance in this game, I think my head would explode. Closing out May is Biomutant, a game that has made these quarterly games list at least once or twice. I've talked about it, but it keeps getting delayed. This action RPG has an open world environment where you control an animal hybrid, a mutant essentially, wow, makes sense, huh? Where you fight against other mutants. The upgrade system looks really cool, and your features change based on the attributes you change at the beginning of the game. It's been delayed, like I said, a time or two, but we're finally going to see a release. Hopefully. Rolling into the June month, we have Chivalry 2 for everything but the Switch. Now, Chivalry really piqued my interest because of the hack and slash element set in a medieval world. So all you LARPers out there, this might be the thing for you. The first game got great reviews, and the gameplay looks to expand upon what made the first game great. Not only is this a single-player experience, but multiplayer and dueling is a huge part of the game. For as good as the original seemed, I think it went a bit unnoticed, and I'm hoping to give this one a little bit more love because it might be one of those under-the-radar games that looks really good, and if it holds up like the first one, could be a huge sleeper hit going into the summer months. And the PS5 is coming out swinging because we have another exclusive hitting June 11th in Ratchet and Clank A Rift Apart. Now, this was one they talked about from the beginning, from the launch of the PS5, but we're finally going to see it on the platform. Now, this is a 3D platformer in what, its 11th or 12th game? I mean, there's so many Ratchet and Clank games. It's been a major Sony franchise for a long time, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Our heroes find themselves traveling from world to world across multiple realities in order to stop the well-known Emperor, that old rascal, from trying to destroy all organic life in the universe. A little bit of a kind of generic storyline, but you know what? Ratchet and Clank always seems to hold up, and with the PS5 backing it, I'm sure it's going to be a pretty fun experience, but we'll find out in just a couple months. And the last game, coming out June 25th, is a Switch exclusive, so Switch is getting a little love here, and it's one of those Mario sports games that always seems to deliver, Mario Golf Super Rush. Now, if you aren't looking for a sports simulator, then these are fun single-player and multiplayer arcade sports titles. Some of the best arcade sports titles are from Nintendo themselves. They know how to do the Mario Tennis games, the golf, even the Olympic games aren't too bad. With over-the-top golf shots, traps, characters' abilities that are different based on who you pick, it's always an enjoyable and entertaining experience. And this game does bring a new mode in speed golf, so instead of taking turns, you literally hit the ball, run to it as fast as you can, and immediately chase after it with the goal of getting it in the hole as fast as possible before your opponent. Now obviously I'm sure strokes count, but the timer does make it kind of entertaining, and I can see this being a really fun party game to close out your June. And that's going to do it for second quarter games. Is there more games? Of course, there's always hundreds of games coming out, from indie developers to the AAAs, but these are just some of the games that I think piqued my interest and will probably pique yours. Some of these you'll probably hear quite a bit about, and a couple of these might be sleeper hits. Let me know in the comments below which game you're looking forward to in the next few months, and if you like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, ring the notification icon. I come back every Friday. See you guys next time. Keep trolling, keep rolling.